countries of the African continent have a heritage steeped in history. This burdened past influences the traditions of the countries, and their language is no expectation. Often, the names of countries come from their historical roots, and whether the countries have a colonial history or not, their origins remain. The names of African countries also hide their little secrets. Today, we are going to introduce you to 10 African country names, their meanings, and their origins. Maybe your favorite country is on this list, so stick around to the end to make sure you don't miss anything. If you like this video format, the best way to show it to us is to give us a like. Subscribe to our channel Africa Revealed if you haven't already. Let's find out where the names of African countries come from. The Gambia. This small country speaks mostly English, but its name doesn't come from this language at all. Contrary to all expectations, the name Gambia comes from the word cambio, which means to exchange in Portuguese. Originally named in honor of the river that crosses the country, this name took on its full meaning in the 15th century. It was at this point that the country's first international voyage started off the African coast to Lisbon. The coasts of Gambia and Senegal, which are closely linked, were in highly demand in the late 1600s. Unfortunately for the inhabitants, as a country bordered by the sea, a lot of transatlantic deals were carried out. They consisted of moving Africans, sometimes by the thousands, to various other countries. These movements were therefore made within the framework of triangular trade, where countries would obtain commodities such as sugar, cocoa, and tobacco. The Gambia has kept its name ever since, which goes hand in hand with the river that serves it. This country is now supplied by the coast, with a large amount of imports throughout the country. Sudan. Nothing to do with the previous country. Let's go all the way to East Africa towards Sudan. This country is very old, and its history goes back to antiquity, when a large part of the country corresponded to a territory called Ancient Nubia. It was also called the land of Kush because it is the name of an ancient kingdom established more than 2,000 years before Jesus Christ. But what then is the meaning of the name Sudan? Surprising as it might be, Sudan literally means land of blacks and comes from the Arabic language. To understand better, you have to put yourself in the shoes of the creators of Arab maps in the Middle Ages. They needed to draw very precise landmarks, and to do so, it was necessary to give a name to each of the known territories. This therefore designated the south of the Sahelian zone. For those who do not know, the Sahel is a transition zone between the northern part of the Sahara domain and the southern part. So it goes back a long time, long before part of Sudan territory became part of Egyptian territory. This name has remained since the Middle Ages and has survived despite national changes and events. Morocco. For the next two destinations, make way for the Maghreb countries. And to start, let's take the one that is located most westerly on the map, Morocco. Although the latter is by no means limited to Marrakesh, it is clear that this is where its name comes from. Founded in 1070, this city has always been shaped by a very important Berber influence in its traditions and not a European influence as one might think. Previously, the capital was then pronounced Marrakesh. To tell you the truth, it had then seen three very different dynasties succeed one another. And now that we understand a little bit better about where Morocco comes from, it will be easier for us to know what the meaning of her first name is. In Tamazight, which is the language of the Berber people, the etymology of Marrakesh literally means the land of God. The religion of Islam therefore has a big role in the origins of Morocco, and it's not surprising that it's so widespread throughout the country. Algeria, another Maghreb country. Algeria also has a great Berber influence, not only in its creation but also in its name. This derives from the name of the country's capital, Algiers. Algiers comes from the Arabic language and means the islands. And for your information, this name was chosen in the year 950 by one of the founders of the Berber dynasty. But why the islands, do you think? The explanation isn't too difficult to understand. In fact, if this is why Algiers is named this way, it's because of the small islets that are in front of the city's port. Later, when it came to deciding on a name that would honor the Algerian nation, it was decided to take inspiration from the name of ancient capital which deserved attention. This is why the country was named Algeria. We are now halfway through this top 10, and what have we learned about African countries? If you are enjoying this video, consider liking this video and sharing it with your friends and family so they know more too. Don't hesitate to subscribe and turn on the notification bell to be notified when a new video comes out. Ivory Coast. For the fifth name, let's talk about the Ivory Coast. By the way, if you want to learn 10 facts you didn't know about this country, we invite you to watch our video on it. Unlike many countries on the African continent, Côte d'Ivoire is one of the few to have kept its colonial name. Indeed, it is undeniable that colonization was an integral part of the history of this country, and will have left indelible traces like its name. The name simply refers to the ivory trade in the region. This therefore reflects the importance of the ivory trade to the economy at the time in the late 1600s. In fact, Côte d'Ivoire is not the only country to have had a name like this, and other places on the African coast have had names of the same style. For example, we have the Gold Coast, which was the old name for Ghana, or the Cereal Coast. Rwanda. Maybe you don't know Rwanda well, but one thing you need to know about this country is that its history is not new. It is 3,000 years old. The name of Rwanda can have several meanings. It means either domain or country which extends. This name comes from the Banyarwanda people, who possess a unique language but also a unique culture. The kingdom of these people has therefore been able to hold out for several thousand years after its creation, despite the colonial period suffered by the country. Indeed, like many other African countries, Rwanda was colonized by Germans and Belgians for decades. The territory of this kingdom was, however, split into two after 1962, when Rwanda regained its independence. The other independent state formed by this separation is none other than the country of Burundi. Guinea. Ancient Spanish maps from the year 1320 already seem to refer to certain peoples as Guinea. However, this map designated an area much larger than the present-day Guinea, as Equatorial Guinea as well as Guinea-Bissau can attest. The latter also takes part of its name from the Bissau checkpoint, which was a Portuguese trading area in 1700. Much like Sudan, the word Guinea would mean land of blacks in Berber language. Another explanation will take place for the word Conakry in Susu. It means the word woman. This word is the first word that the locals said when the Portuguese arrived in the country. The influence of this country is manifested in the architecture of the country. Cameroon. The name of this country located in Central Africa also comes from the Portuguese language. More precisely, it comes from the expression Rio de Cameros, which means river of shrimps. Why this name? This is the name Portuguese explorers gave to the Wouri River around 1400 when there were so many shrimps in the waters. But how did we come from Rio de Cameros to the name Cameroon? You're right, there are a few missing steps. In short, it was the English who distorted the Portuguese name, changing from Cameros to the name Cameroons. Over time, the original name of the country has therefore changed to the name Cameroon. Senegal. Ninth country. Senegal has a name with quite nice origins. Several hypotheses exist, the first being that of a name of Berber origin. This name would mean where our borders are, in reference to the Kaya region. On the other hand, the slightly funnier theory would come straight from the Wolof language, still spoken in the country to this day. Some people can confirm that this name comes from the question, is it our canoe, as the French abbot David Boala wrote in his book in 1850. It was in fact the first sentence uttered by the Senegalese during the arrival of some settlers. Chad. This is the last country in this video. Let's talk about the origins and meaning of the name Chad. The Central African country takes its name from the Kanuri language with a basic word meaning lake. The reason behind this simple word is that Chad is named after the lake of the same name. And yes, Chad has a long history which goes beyond its colonial period. 3 great kingdoms have succeeded one another and have long ruled the nation over several centuries. These kingdoms were named Kanem, Wadai, and Bagurimi. Today, Chad has the status of a democratic republic but has come under military rule since the president's death in April 2021. With all these etymologies, you have inevitably learned things about the names of African countries. If your country is on the list, please let us know in the comments section. And if that's not the case, stay tuned for part 2 of this video, which will be on the way soon. Thank you for your viewing, and we hope to see you again very soon on our channel.